The Mark Cox Show.
I want to compliment your show on how fair and level-headed everything you guys talk about.
Who is this guy? He's saying what we've been saying forever.
Maybe what we need from a conservative standpoint is
The Mark Cox Show.
I respect that. We don't agree.
Listen to both sides.
Let's get it on. Is The Mark Cox Show.
As far as settlements, I'd like to see you hold back on settlements for a little bit. We'll work something out, but I would like to see a deal be made. I think a deal will be made. I know that every president would like to. Most of them have not started till late because they never thought it was possible. And it wasn't possible because they didn't do it. But Bibi and I have known each other a long time. A smart man, great negotiator. And I think we're going to make a deal. It might be a bigger and better deal than people in this room even understand.
There you have it. Some of the comments from President Trump yesterday during his joint news conference with the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, raising a few eyebrows. People wondering how he feels about a two-state solution, if he's changing what they called, I believe, 20 years of U.S. policy on that, dating back to the Clinton administration. And I kind of wanted to get an idea of what that was sounding like today to people who actually live in Israel. We're going to get to my friend Kevin Howard here just a couple of minutes. In the meantime, the president's current news conference, the one he held today, is still going on. He is, an hour and 15 minutes into it right now. He's taking every question the reporters throw at him. It's been a contentious interview. He's called some of the reporters representatives of very fake news. He's sort of set the record straight on the Russian situation, the investigation of Mike Flynn and him being let go. He's discussed the new executive order regarding travel restrictions that apparently the White House is going to roll out next week. He said it would be similar to the current one, but would address the concerns that were brought up at the court. So in other words, try to avoid those problems. But he did say they would continue to fight for the current executive order in court, at least up in the Ninth Circuit. He was critical of the Ninth Circuit, called it a mess. And that's just a little flavor of what happened today. And the president said he expects the headlines will be that he came out and chewed out the press. He's talked about a lot. He's talking about inner cities and crime and all the jobs he's trying to bring back. It's been a classic Donald Trump news conference, and one thing's for sure. A lot of things have changed in the last year and a half. Donald Trump is not one of them. This is just a classic Trump news conference, and he's taking questions from what he refers to as friendly media and unfriendly media. It's been pretty interesting to watch. Let me get to my friend Kevin Howard, who's joining us on the phone from Israel. He's with Christian Friends of Israel. Kevin, good to hear from you, my friend.
Oh, Mark, it's always great to be with you as well.
You sound like you're in the next room. That's outstanding.
Well, you know what? I'm in Jerusalem, but I can give that to the credit of my Israeli friends who developed cell technology.
Very nice. Nicely done. So we enjoyed watching the news conference yesterday when Prime Minister Netanyahu was here. I'm just wondering, without getting into a lot of the details of what they discussed yet, has the visit been viewed positively there in Israel?
Well, I think overall, Mark, it's been viewed in a positive light, but it's viewed in a mixed light. This is a very diverse country. A lot of opinions. I'm told by my Jewish friends that if you put two Jewish friends in a room to discuss an argument, you end up with three opinions. So the headlines across the papers and in the media are anywhere from U.S. papers are slamming Trump's absurd, nonsensical retreat from the two-state plan to the PLO official who got a headline today saying that the alternative to the two-state solution is a painful bloodshed. So the remarks are on all sides. Many people are very optimistic, I think. They're optimistic that things are going to be moving forward. Their hopes are in the ability to take a situation that has been a very long situation and try to come to some resolution, because The people here in Israel want to live in peace.
You know my take on this. I mean, in terms of the Palestinians' reaction to it, as long as they support Hamas, any deal or no deal still leads to bloodshed because that's all they seem to have on their minds.
Yeah, that seems to be part of the problem. It seems to be very deep-seated. It's got lots of components to it. I was talking with a friend of mine who studies Muslim culture, and the Ottoman Turks occupied this area for 400 years until 1917 in World War I. And part of the Muslim philosophy is that once a land is conquered by Islam, it always belongs to Islam. So that remnant is still there in some of the ideology. One of the other problems is that you're dealing with a people group who teach their children at a very young age that Israel shouldn't be there. Israel needs to be wiped off the map. If you see a Jew behind a tree, your job is to go and get rid of them. So there's lots of components to the complex situation.
Yeah, it's a good point. You know, when we had you here in the studio back in the fall, you and I had this very conversation about the fact that people who are relatives of suicide bombers and people who've come and stabbed someone and been shot to death, these Palestinians who go into Israel and Jerusalem to create terror, are paid a salary for the rest of their lives. Their families are paid a salary. I loved it that Benjamin Netanyahu brought up that very point in the East Room of the White House yesterday on national television so that everybody in America and everybody who is watching in the world could hear that story. I don't think it gets told often enough, the level of, I just, for lack of a better word, conspiracy on the part of the Palestinian Authority when it comes to violence against Israel.
Yeah, it's a huge ideological problem. It's a huge problem within that group of people. I'm glad it's made world news now because, most of the world is watching that press conference. There's even streets that get named after martyrs, those who kill themselves trying to blow up buses or blowing up Israelis throughout the different parts of the Palestinian territories. And you're right, that the families are paid a salary for life. If a terrorist is not killed and they're put in prison, that family gets a monthly stipend or a monthly salary while they're terrorist family members in the prison.
That's amazing. We're talking to my friend Kevin Howard, who's in Jerusalem, who operates a charity there called Christian Friends of Israel, and you can find out more about them at cfijerusalem.org. You can go to their website. There seems to be some confusion on this side of the pond today, Kevin, over whether or not the U.S. backed away from 20 years of U.S. support for a two-state solution or if there's going to be a one-state solution and what that one-state solution would look like. Has that been a discussion in Israel?
Well, it has been a big topic of discussion because, ever since, like you said, from the Clinton era, that has been the norm, what they considered what they were doing as the roadmap to peace, as they used to call it. And it's stuck through administrations over time across the years. But I think President Trump has done something which probably only President Trump could do. He's put another option on the table. He's basically said, look, this whole situation has not come to a conclusion in the 20-plus years and even beyond. Let's put another option on the table to discuss. Let's not stay in the box that hasn't been working. And what's interesting is one of the headlines today came out in the Times of Israel, says that the two-state solution is still the most popular option among Israelis and Palestinians. And in the article, it says that the pollsters here said about 55% of Israelis and about 44% of Palestinians still favor the principle of a two-state solution.
Okay.
And that's down from 59 Israelis and 51 Palestinians. So it's losing some ground. Here's the interesting part of the article, which is a fact I brought up before. Israeli Arabs who are citizens of the state of Israel who enjoy the freedom of the democracy of living in Israel and being a citizen in Israel. It says Israeli Arabs, however, oppose a two-state solution, instead favoring a single state or some type of a confederation. And the reason for that is because once you have been in Israeli society as an Israeli citizen, you understand, and they overwhelmingly poll in favor of staying with Israel because of all of the freedom that they get, the democracy involved, the rights involved for their women and their children. And that is an amazing factor, I think, moving forward, of understanding that when you poll Israeli Arabs and say, would you prefer to be in your own state under Palestinian rule, or would you prefer to stay in Israel as an Israeli citizen who's an Arab, it's overwhelming. They want to stay in Israel.
I think that's something that I marvel at and that maybe a lot of people overlook. When you were in here and you described to me that in Israel there's a fairly large percentage of Arab residents who live in Israel, who work side by side with the Jewish people every day, who operate shops and everything else, and there's no problem with them at all.
No, there's no problem, and everyone's doing more than just coexisting. I've seen these bumper stickers that say coexist with all the different symbols on them.
Right.
This is daily life of getting along, exchanging economies back and forth. People who go and have coffee. There's people who have Jewish friends and Arab friends. They go to bar mitzvahs together. They go to weddings together. Just last weekend on Friday, we had a warm day. It's been cold and rainy here. We're in winter. And I was walking through the local park a few blocks from my home. And as I was walking through, I saw kids playing on the playground. There was two park benches about 18 inches apart. And on one side, on the left, was a Orthodox Jewish family. The man was wearing his kippah. He had the tassels, the seats hanging down from his shirt. He and his wife with a little baby in their hand. Their little boy was playing in the park. And 18 inches away, sitting right next to him, is a young Arab family. The mother's in her hijab. She's dressed as an Arab. She's got her long coat on. Everything's covered. But her little boy's on the playground playing with this little Jewish boy. And I thought, this is just the amazing microcosm of what real life is like daily here in Israel.
In Israel, where it's the really only true democracy over there, right?
It is, and it is a true democracy, because the reality is that woman who may have a Muslim faith has absolute right to practice her faith, to not practice her faith. She can wear her Muslim womanhood hijab if she wants, or she doesn't have to. She can drive a car, she can own land, she can vote, and that's what a true democracy is. And that's some of the misconception, I think, in the greater Middle East, in the other countries, especially like Turkey, or you get into some things of the countries of Egypt. They think that just having a free election means you have democracy, and that's not the case. We saw that with the Gaza when Hamas came in.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was happy to see a renewal of the healthy relationship between the United States and Israel that we experienced on display yesterday there in the White House. Even Benjamin Netanyahu made reference to it, that it's refreshing and long past due. I think I'm paraphrasing there, but I'm pretty sure that's what he said about it. So I think that's a good sign moving forward. I think Donald Trump's going to bring some fresh approaches and fresh ideas to this idea of some sort of a orchestrated peace in that area. I don't know if he'll succeed or not, but I'm happy to see that he's at least trying it. Kevin, before I let you get off here, let me tell folks a little bit more about CFI Jerusalem, because I know that you've got Front Page Jerusalem, which is your Christian talk show that is heard throughout the states and all over the world. And, of course, your operation there in Jerusalem, you are ministering, not just ministering, but you're providing supplies and jobs and food and everything else to Israeli citizens.
Yeah, it's a great work. It was started in 1985 by Ray and Sharon Sanders, my wife's parents, who my beautiful wife, Stacy, I have to say hello to because I know she's still back in the States. I came back to Jerusalem about a month ago, and she's been keeping up with some business there in the United States. But our job here is to not just minister, but to stand alongside in solidarity with the Jewish nation. We stand boldly as Christians, as a Christian organization. We provide humanitarian relief to those in need. And one of the great things that has been the longevity of this particular work in this organization is back in the days when rockets were flying and even before when buses were exploding, a lot of people went home. Even a lot of news reporters and secular media said, I just can't stay there. I have to go back to my country. And we were one of the people who stayed through all of those hard times and all of the intifada. When the rockets were coming over Gaza, our people were in the car taking supplies and humanitarian relief and food vouchers down to the Gaza area, down to where the Jewish people were being bombed and rocketed daily and living in their bomb shelters. But we also reach out to the IDF, the soldiers in the north, up on the Lebanon border where Hezbollah is, bringing them some comfort, letting them know that the nations understand and that Christians stand with them. We help the Ethiopian community who have a hard time adjusting. And we don't forget about the Holocaust survivors, the 80,000 or less Holocaust survivors still here. But I want you to know, Mark, the invitation to come and see me is still open. So I'm waiting for you to tell me. So I have a great opportunity for you because in about 3 months, May 22nd to 25th, I've got a touring conference that you and as many of your listeners as want can come over and see me, and we'll talk face-to-face.
Oh, it's on my bucket list. I'd love to do it. I just got to figure out a time that would work. So, Kevin, thank you so much. Kevin Howard, great information there, and keep up the good work, my friend.
Absolutely, Mark. It's always a pleasure to be with you. I look forward to our time in the future.
All right, we'll talk soon. Kevin Howard there from Jerusalem today, kind of giving us their point of view on how things went yesterday with Benjamin Netanyahu when he was in. And again, the website, cfijerusalem.org, if you want to go find out more about what they do. All right, quick break, 314-969-9797. We'll get to your phone calls and much more coming up here. You're listening to The Mark Cox Show.
Pirate smile, you merry music man.
The Mark Cox Show on FM News Talk 97.1, 98.7, AM 1490, and 97.1talk.com.
Dancing in the sand.
Win tickets to the Missouri Arms Collectors Gun Show by logging on to 971talk.com. The event's going on this weekend at the VFW Post in Overland, just east of Lindbergh on Midland Boulevard. Get all the details and register to win gun show passes at 971talk.com.
Well,